Hello, everybody, and welcome to Metal Detecting in American Property, a beginner's experience. I created this video to share my experience metal detecting a property that has some American history. The land is located in a rural area of Connecticut and in the past was probably used as farmland in the 1900s. The land is relatively flat and it's off the beaten path, so not too many people are going to go through here. The ground is covered with debris that makes it very challenging to metal detect and survey. The area is also heavily mineralized to the point where it wreaks havoc with the metal detector's conductivity readings. And also, the mineralization creates numerous phantom targets. But since I was interested in recovering artifacts of any type, I just ignored the metal detector's conductivity readings and used the detector in its all metal detecting mode. Even though I don't consider myself an expert in metal detecting, I still recovered a lot of interesting artifacts, and I'm going to share with you the recovery of these artifacts and the different methods I used to clean and partially restore them. Alright, it's a big target. Huh. That is part of a horseshoe. Part of a horseshoe. Very old. This find had me fooled at first. Knowing nothing about farm animals, I believed this artifact to be half of a broken horseshoe. However, it appears to be one of a two-piece oxen shoe. I didn't realize that oxen have cloven hooves requiring a two-piece shoe. The specimen, of course, is covered with rust and debris. I generally use one of two methods to clean a specimen like this. I will either use a heated acetic acid bath or electrolysis. And of the two methods, I prefer electrolysis. Electrolysis usually does a fantastic job. Here's the specimen before electrolytic treatment, and here it is after. Here's an example of using electrolysis to clean a medium-sized horseshoe. The shoe is covered with rust and debris. To effectively remove rust using this technique, one needs a good electrical connection. A wire wheel was used to clean and expose a small area on the horseshoe for electrode connection. I was able to clean the area with minimal damage to the specimen. The specimen is placed in the electrolysis cell and submerged in an electrolyte. The electrolyte used here is a 0.1 molar concentration of sodium carbonate. A constant 13.6 volt power supply was used. This specimen conducted up to 1.6 amps. The results are generally impressive. Here's before, and here's after. A total of 4 horseshoes were recovered, each of a different size. They're pretty challenging to date. They all seem to have the same late 19th, early 20th century design. Let's have a look at my next find. Half the fun of metal detecting is the anticipation. This was the first of 11 paper shot shell cartridges that were recovered. Because the cartridge casing or hull is made out of paper, it disintegrates within a few years, leaving only the brass head and the primer cup assembly to be found. The head is usually stamped with a cartridge make, model, and other identifiers, making it possible to estimate the shot shell production period. The head stamp of this shot shell is partially obscured by corrosion. However, 30 minutes of electrolytic treatment makes the head stamp easily readable with tangential lighting. According to online sources that I've found, this Peters Cartridge Company shot shell, model Target, 12 gauge, was produced at the company factory somewhere between 1911 and 1930. This was the most frequent type of specimen found on the property, a shot shell.
Looks like we got it. It is a shot shell. There it is.
Collectively, the remnants of 11 cartridges were recovered during the time the land was surveyed. The shot shell with the earliest production date found was the UMC Company Arrow number 12, with a production beginning in 1892. The shot shell with the latest production date found was the Winchester Ranger number 12, with a production ending in 1972. To get some perspective of a timeline of activity on the property, specifically hunting with a shotgun, the production periods were used to construct a histogram, showing the frequency of production period overlap as a function of time. And here's that histogram of overlapping production periods. The greatest overlap of shot shell production occurs on the timeline in the late 1920s. If we consider that ammunition generally has a 10-year shelf life and therefore isn't necessarily used immediately after purchase, an educated guess would place most of the hunting activity occurring between 1920 and 1940-45. And I would expect that this is a fairly conservative wide-range estimate. And with this histogram in hand, we can do a little detective work. The earliest possible year hunting activity ended would be 1937. And this is because the latest beginning production period of one of the cartridges found is 1937, and that would be for the Winchester Ranger. Obviously, hunting couldn't have ended prior to this.
It's not a shotgun shell. It's a button. It's a button. Button. That could be very old.
I'm sure you can tell I was excited to find this artifact, a domed brass button. The button appears to be of a single-piece construction to which a shank is soldered. Now, according to online sources, domed brass buttons of this type were common throughout the 18th and into the early 19th centuries. This is the specimen before electrolysis, and here it is after. This button seemed to be of an earlier era than the shot shells discovered. So in an attempt to better isolate the era of origin, I contacted the Waterbury Button Museum, located in Waterbury, Connecticut. Although the staff couldn't help me themselves, they did redirect me to an expert who could. So I sent the expert these images, and here is his determination.
This button is a common find among older house digs. Although not 18th century, it could very well have come from an old house site dating to that era. I would date this button to around 1840s through 1860s. The metal isn't thick enough to be from the Golden Age period, and the boss around the shank postdates the tomback style popular during the turn of the century. Anywhere in CT you can find all sorts of interesting buttons, since that where the whole button industry started. Early pewter, copper, brass can be located anywhere, but especially in the eastern portion.
So conservatively speaking, this button comes from somewhere between the 1840 to 1870 period. As I was walking along the property, I found this. This is the lever-operated water pump model H208, manufactured by the Flint and Wally Company. The company is still located in Kendallville, Indiana. Based on information provided in a YouTube video of the company's history, this pump design was originally patented circa 1900. It was originally designed to be operated by hand or windmill. This was a fantastic surface find. I did call the company. However, no one I spoke to could guesstimate the production period of this pump. With some online research, I was able to find a YouTube video outlining the company's history. Included in that video was a timeline annotated with the company's achievements, such as dates of various product patents. One of these annotations appears to be the patent date of the H208 hand pump. And based on this, it seems the pump was patented circa 1900. During the time I was surveying the property, I found the remains of various animals and was interested in observing the types of creatures that frequented the property. So to this end, I mounted a trail camera out of reach in a tree located in the center of the land. I also mounted signs indicating that the area was being AV recorded. Over the course of about a month or so, the only animals I caught on video were deer and squirrels. Not every find is interesting.
It's just a pile of decayed metal. I don't know what it was. Some sort of sheet metal.
This find is an unrecognizable pile of decayed sheet metal, the purpose of which I am uncertain.
Not sure what that is.
Not certain what this is, although the metallurgy seems to be similar to that of the horseshoes that were recovered.
Not sure what that is.
Best guess on this one appears to be a bent nail.
Still down there. This is a deep one. Oh, there it is. There it is. It's deep for a reason. It's old. Oh, that's an older design horseshoe.
At first I thought this was another horseshoe, but on closer inspection it appears to be just a broken piece of machinery. If you know what it is, let me know in the comments.
Part of a harness for an animal.
This is another specimen I've had to label as an unknown. If I had to guess, an animal's harness. Well, I've shown you all the highlights of metal detecting this land. I think one of the most significant mistakes I made searching this land was not establishing a proper search pattern. It took me a while, but eventually I established my own reliable system. Well, that's it. that's most of what I have to share. The artifacts I found eventually I'll turn over to the local museum. I'm sure the museum will give them a better home than I can.